Welcome to Strive with Crystal, where we speak truth, seek healing, and shine light on the power of resilience. Let's break the silence around mental health together. I am your host, Crystal Mullen Johnson, a licensed therapist, a mentor, a leader, a friend, a mother, a sister, and most importantly, your number one supporter. We will have real, honest conversations to educate, empower, and help you build resilience as you strive toward a healthier you. Come along with me to see things crystal clear. I am grateful to have my brother Elward Mullen join me. Elward Mullen is a native of Demopolis. He is the son of the late Elaine and Charles Mullen. He is married to LaDonna Mullen. They have been married for 26 years. He has three amazing children, Elena Mullen, Tristan Mullen, and the late Elward Mullen Jr. Elward professionally serves as an assistant vice president in the BSA AML Enhanced Due Diligence Operations Department at Regions Bank, bringing more than 27 years of experience in the financial industry through both Compass Bank and Regions Bank. He also proudly serves in the United States Army Reserve as a medical specialist. Elwood earned a Bachelor of Arts in Religion and Philosophy from Stillman College and a Master of Arts in Pastoral Theology from Adamsville Theological Seminary. For more than 13 years, he has faithfully ministered the gospel of Jesus Christ. In 2020, he was appointed the executive pastor of Hope Everlasting Ministry under the leadership senior pastor Derek D. Jordan. Elwood is passionate about helping people experience God's grace and believe we were created to live in authentic community, extending love, hope, and compassion to one another.
Listen, I am so excited today, not just to talk about faith, community, and family, but I'm just excited today to be here with you, my sister. It's just what you're doing here in the city of Birmingham, what you're doing in the city of Demopolis, what you're doing for when it comes to mental health and to being an advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. It is so important. So thank you so much for the invitation.
I was reading your bio and I had flashback moment reading about attending Stillman College, which I attended Stillman
You did.
College for a summer. Actually, it was the summer of my freshman year at Alabama A&M. I was making a decision to transition from Alabama A&M
Yeah.
to Stillman College. The community was so small, although I did meet some amazing people. I decided to transfer back to Alabama A&M. During that time, I was actually Edward's roommate. What
You
was that
were.
like for you?
It was awesome. You came down for the summer. It was like back at home again. And we were able to reinvent our childhood. But listen, I always say that not only are you a bulldog, but you'll always be a Stillman Tiger as well.
I am. I am. I had an opportunity to be the mother of the house, and he loved it because I cleaned up and made sure he had meals. So I really enjoyed that experience.
You know, it's funny you ask that. On the way here, I kind of welled up a little bit with a couple of tears in my eyes. Not a lot of times people get the opportunity to sit down with their siblings and be able to have a conversation on a real professional level, right? With a platform that you have created, which is going very well, by the way.
But thank you.
I kind of teared up a little bit because here's a conversation in which we're able to have, and we don't have our parents here to hear.
Right.
We don't have those people who made the way, planted the way, who put a seed in the earth so we can have these opportunities to have Strive Counseling, to be able to work at Regions Bank and all the things they instilled in us. So, yeah, it's really a joyful, but it's also one of those feelings where I get where I'm kind of also kind of a little sad a little bit,
Of
because I
course.
definitely would have love for our parents to see this moment and to kind of take it in. I know they're watching us, but I definitely would wish they were here to see us in person.
I was emotional and I was nervous starting the interview. Our parents are watching us, and when our parents died, I was extremely angry, frustrated. Definitely having to witness my friends celebrate with their parents and hear people talk about their families being together. I realized that I would not be the woman that I am if I had not experienced those losses, right? I mean, what Strive exists, the purpose that I've developed is because of the life experiences that I had. So we have to be so cautious about being selfish
Yes.
and understanding the path that God has created for us. What legacy do you think they establish for us?
We come from, and I smile a little bit on that. We come from a father who left Demopolis in 1942, went to Brooklyn, New York, worked as a mechanic, was able to buy a 8-story building in Brooklyn, New York in the 19 on Park Place, right?
654 Park Place.
We talk about on our maternal side, our mother who on 5 generations of HBCU graduates,
Absolutely.
right? So when you talk about a legacy, this is it. This is the legacy that they set for us. This is what they wanted us to see. The one word that comes to my mind is determination. We talk about striving, right? We talk about
That's right.
determination. Our father and mother, the legacy that they wanted to instill in us, we're living it today. And so I say that, Crystal, that the prayer that I have for both of us is that we continue to strive, no pun intended, but to strive into what they created up for us to have and the legacy to go on for our children, our children's children. And so they did a wonderful job by laying the foundation of what they want us to do, and we're walking right into it.
I definitely agree. Dad being an entrepreneur
Yes.
and growing up watching him work on cars, he was a master mechanic.
Yes.
And my mom was a social worker. She actually was a social worker with the Department of Human Resources. And I absolutely love going to visit DHR. I know that sounds odd, but I did. I love that. I love going on home visits with her.
Yes.
I was totally exposed to the culture of social work
Yes.
and the culture of entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Did he ask you to come outside to watch him work on a car, to learn how to change oil and a
He
tire?
did. He did.
Okay.
I had what they call ADHD back in the day, so I couldn't
And
sit down.
diagnose.
Yeah,
That is
right.
so true.
Yeah.
Wow, that is really true.
Yeah, but can I elaborate a little bit on what you just said? And I know we're going to go down memory lane. When you talked about social work and what you're doing today and what mom did, I was just thinking of the fact that not only did you walk in mom's shoes, you went to Alabama A&M. My mother graduated from Alabama A&M. You graduated in social work. Our mother graduated in social work. And not only that, you went a step further and went back home the same street we grew up on, Washington Street, and planted a business.
I did.
If that's not God. And so I say this to you, Crystal, and I want you to always remember this. And that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation from a sibling perspective, is because we need to make sure that we give our flowers while we're here. And what you're walking in is something that was predestined a long time ago.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and you're doing a great job with it. And so it goes back to, and we'll talk about some of the trauma that mama went through and dad and what we had in the household. But I love what you said. All those things that we went through created this moment.
That's true. That's true. And this is healing us having a public
Yes.
conversation because we were raised in a small town close to our neighbors. My mom was extremely private. I don't even recall mom having friends. Did she have any friends?
Outside of our friends, mothers, our
Well, I
women,
mean, I don't even recall her really spending much time
Right.
with them. She was a beautiful person,
Yes.
extremely reserved. She and I are polar opposites in terms of personality, but
Yes.
you have more of mom's personality, would you say?
I do. I do. I think
Okay.
that she's more of an introvert. I am a more of an introvert. You're definitely an extrovert.
I didn't realize that because I was shy. Do you agree with that?
Not really.
Okay, I actually was. People don't believe that. I had a little social anxiety growing up, but we'll talk about where that stemmed from. Dad wasn't very social. His socializing was business, and I realized that's a lot of who I am. He was really rigid,
Yes.
and we grew up in a very strict environment. I was even afraid to ask him to go to the school prom. He was a great father,
Yes, he was.
but he had some really strict principles, values. There was a little sheltering going on. You were talking about this history prior to meeting mom. As Elward mentioned, our father, Charles, formally developed his family in Brooklyn, New
Yes.
York, by his late wife, Miss Ruby Mullen, and she was a wonderful woman, a beautiful, wonderful woman. What I loved about Miss Ruby Mullen, my dad and my mom, they knew how to coexist.
Yes.
I never recall my mom talking
No.
negatively. I've never heard her say anything negative about her. We were a family.
Yeah.
We respected Miss Ruby
Yes.
Mullen, and she respected us.
Yes.
And we were between New York, Demopolis. We also have five siblings, five step siblings.
It's nine in total. We had five sisters and four brothers. And some of them, of course, our stepbrothers are deceased, but we had nine total that dad had in previous marriage.
And actually, a few of our siblings attempted to live with us at some point. But can you imagine?
Nieces, nephews.
Yeah, nieces live with us. My nephew, Leroy Mullen, we're so close. And he stayed with us the longest, I
He
think.
did.
I watched him grow up. But it was a very interesting life. It was always something going on.
It was. Something that you said, you're absolutely right. If we go back and look at our dad's life prior to meeting our mom, you can kind of see how he grew up. He grew up without a mom. He would tell me that the first time he ever saw his mom when they was willing the casket in with her, right? And so a lot of that pain, a lot of that anger resonated into both of his marriages. And so he was hard nosed. And I do see a lot of that in you. You're a business person through and through. You make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. But I say all that to say, and I want you to speak on it a little bit from mental health perspective, is that he took a lot of that anger, a lot of that trauma, and he balled it up, and he didn't know how to express it. So, to your point, that's why we lived in a household that had a lot of tension in it, and it was kind of hard when you saw that, or you knew that trauma that dad had. You can kind of see how that resonated throughout his marriages.
He definitely had a lot of unresolved trauma. Our genetics do play a role, obviously, who we are. I would say Dad did have an undiagnosed mental health condition, but he definitely had explosive anger. He was very intimidating, the type of father that you are unlikely to ask for much of anything. You always had to gauge temperature.
Yes.
You had to gauge temperature. And the paradox of that is so confusing for kids. He was such a great provider. There was nothing that we ever wanted that we did not get, but that was problematic because you had someone that was very angry and aggressive, but then would appease you by providing these gratifying things. That can be very confusing for a child. You tend to think that love is supposed to be painful. It's like this painful, pleasurable experience. And it does create some very traumatic experiences and responses. Having to grow up in an environment where there's a lot of rigid interactions with your parents. Mom was more withdrawn, timid, and she internalized her frustrations and anger.
Yeah, she did. And there were things where, as we got older, and just before we talk a little bit about that, to go back to something you just said, I think that's why me and your relationship is so genuine and so close as siblings, is because when we endured those times where our dad exploded or was mad, it was an opportunity for me to shelter my younger sister or be there for my younger sister. But our mother was very reserved because of that. Beautiful woman, can sing. I always would joke and say if she wasn't married, she would be in Hollywood. As we got older, we learned some things about her and her previous marriage that she had, that her child that she had before
Daphne.
us, Daphne.
So my mom actually eloped when she was in college. I had an opportunity to meet her ex-husband. I attended the Delta Rush and learned that my advisor at the time was roommates with my mother in college. How odd is that? She recognized the last name and she said, "Wait a minute, do you know Elaine Mullen?" She was floored. And her husband and my mom's ex-husband were best friends. And she said, "I have to tell him that I met you." But I had an opportunity to have dinner with him. Of course, I told my dad. He shared some stories about my mom, and they were really positive. He knew that they probably shouldn't have married at the time. They were young and in love and impulsive, but they did conceive a child together that died shortly after she was born. And I have Daphne's baby book at the
Yes, she
house.
do.
So it was a really interesting dynamic, but having the experience growing up in a blended family did give me appreciation of how blended families should operate. It should not operate in conflict. It should not operate in jealousy. It should definitely operate in love. And it
Yes.
gave me a perspective growing up in a household with my father not to have a rigid relationship with my son,
Yes.
Ethan, to provide him autonomy, to make some decisions, and to have an outlet to communicate
Yes.
emotions. And also understanding that I have autonomy. I have the right to make decisions, to thrive, and to pursue my happiness and to live my self truth. How did growing up in Demopolis shape you? I think back to Old Morning Star Baptist Church. We spent so much time in church together, love, serving from Red Bean Circle to
Yes.
Vacation Bible School to what else did we do?
Well,
Singing in the choir.
youth
Oh,
choir.
we just love spending time in church.
We
What were
did.
some experiences that you loved?
You said a mouthful there, and if you think about the dynamic of what we endured at the house, but the pleasant memories we had of Demopolis, right? I think about Morning Star as well, from the late Miss Johnson picking us up for Sunday school.
Right.
But one of the things that stand out in my mind is Christmas on the River.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yes, Christmas on the River was an event in our home, and we would
And they
have our
still
relatives come home, California, New Orleans, on my maternal side, on our father's side. We had our uncles that would come down, and it just was a house
right.
of people. And like my sister said, that there was nothing but love throughout the home. And every time we got together with family, it was always like that. But another thing, too, when I think about the Demopolis Crystal, is that one word of just being humble. It humbled us. It did, right? I hear a lot about people growing up in Birmingham, and no knock to anyone who's from Birmingham. Would you say that just growing up in a small town allowed you to have that sense of being humble, to have that ability to appreciate small things, innings?
Definitely, growing up in Demopolis helped me become resilient, and I'm
Yes.
so grateful. I don't regret any
No,
life experience
no.
that I had. I accept the good, the bad, the ugly, the happy at the age of 14. After losing mom,
Yes,
you were in the
I
military
was.
at the time. That was devastating. It was so devastating. And I remember my dad looking at me and saying, "What am I going to do with the little girl?" I evolved into a woman very early.
Yes,
I became domesticated. I knew how to take care of myself. I took care of the household. And I was very mature before many of my friends matured. I was so mature when I journeyed on to college. Having to experience the loss of mom during that time was challenging, but it helped me grow and evolve. Would you
yes.
say it did the same for you?
Oh, absolutely. We always joke about one thing in our hometown of we always say Cherry Street. That's the street we grew up on and all our friends grew up on. But one of the things that, like, when you think back to some of those memories, some of the bad memories and some of the good memories, I just want to tell you that when mom passed, I was in the military, coming home, I was in Tuscaloosa. I saw you blossom. We're talking about the challenges of what grief does. And here it is, a 14-year-old, 15-year-old young lady who lost her mother. That's a very challenging time, but yet you took that and you just went into a whole nother trajectory. And you remind me so much of my daughter now, Elena. You know, we talked about grief. She lost her brother, my son, Edward Jr., my namesake, and she replicates her auntie with
Yes.
that loss. Like when Crystal lost her mother and the challenges that she had to face and she overcame. Same thing with my daughter after she lost her brother.
Mm-hmm.
She just went into this whole mode of I'm going
She
to make
did.
it regardless. She did. I definitely. But when we talk about our hometown and the memories that we have, I wouldn't trade them for nothing.
Absolutely.
Nothing.
Skating in the street, walking on the railroad track, riding the bike
Catching lightning
across.
bugs.
Oh my God, I love that. And I annoyed you so much. I was actually, I was more protective of
He
Elwood.
was.
That was my Elwood. If you did not rise to the standard that I thought you should be, you could not talk to Elwood. I was a very protective sister,
He really
so that
was.
was much of how my dad protected me, I was
Yes.
protecting you in the
Yes.
same way. But I loved our family traditions. Christmas was a
Yes.
really big deal.
Yes.
We always had a live Christmas tree, and I still get a live Christmas
You
tree
do it to this
till
day.
this
You still do
day.
it.
I do not get artificial trees. Well, is one here at Strive, but I have never had one at my house. And I love that. I love to see my mom sitting around the piano with her friends.
Yes.
Give me them oh dirty greens. Like she literally would make up a song about greens,
Right.
like collard greens, that is. And I remember her cleaning those chitterlings,
Yes.
and I don't know how to clean chitterlings.
No.
I can't remember the last time I had chitterlings, but I love to see her do that. Yes, that was her happy place. And sitting in front of the radio singing, no pain, no pain, no
Yes.
gain,
Yes.
no gain,
As
no
long as she
pain.
had her wine, she was good.
So love those family traditions. Love hanging out with my childhood friends, Sabrina and Monet. We were always
Y'all
together.
were.
Love, love, love that. So grateful for all of those things. As we've talked about our childhood experiences, growing up in a blended family, the grief that we've experienced, inclusive of losing dad unexpectedly,
Yes.
because that was an unexpected loss
It
too.
was. It was devastating.
What would you say healing looks like for you today?
And it's still an ongoing journey, right? Losing our mother in 96, losing dad in 2006, traditionally. And nothing happens by accident. I think that, as we just mentioned, all those times that we lost, had lost in our lives, created us to who we are today. The healing is still a journey, right?
It
It's still
is.
times I think about after my father died, I still carry this anger inside of me for him or against him. Some unanswered questions that I had when my mother passed, there was anger in that of how she passed. At 49 years old, and you dealt with this with some of your clients, and when you're doing therapy, is you have those moments when you go back in time and you want to just wonder, like, why? That one word,
Mm-hmm.
why, right? And so healing is, when you talk about how does my healing look, it's still a continued journey. And again, like I mentioned, just losing our son, that's another aspect or another layer to that. But it's so beneficial. And this is what I would share with each one of you all, is that if you're going through times of grief, when you endure loss after loss, get help.
I do agree.
Get help. I think that the times that I was able to sit down with a counselor or the therapy has benefited me 1,000%. And
Hmm.
so, what, like I said again, what you do and what you do here at Strive is very important for those that are dealing with
Right, grief is lifelong. When I think about our losses, the anniversary dates of those deaths are so close to important days for me. My mom died April 24th, and my birthday is April 28th. We buried her the day before my
it.
birthday. That's devastating. My dad's birthday is on July 17th, but he died May 17th. That's not far off from April 28th. So there's a span of time where I do feel grief in my body. You feel it in your body. You think about it. It's called integrated grief. I've done therapy. I'm totally aware. I know how to cope. We have to be comfortable acknowledging our emotions, our experiences, and rely on a licensed professional to help guide us through that grieving
Yes.
process. When EJ died, you all lived with me for a few months. I took care of you all, and I did not have a chance to grieve. My grief was delayed by 2 months, and it was hard for me when they moved out, and I had to start my grieving journey later.
Yes.
We're reminded of all the people that we lost that we love.
Yes.
There is a such thing as stages of grief. You don't go through those stages in any particular order: shock, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. You're going to experience those stages at different times than your loved ones. But it's okay to talk about your memories. It's okay to ride the wave of those emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to seek help and work through grief. I can say that I'm actually in a wonderful place, and I call that integrated grief, not acute grief. Acute grief is when you first experience your loss for 6 months to a year. You experience sadness, anger, loneliness, changes in your sleep, changes in your appetite, similar symptoms to depression. You have complicated grief where you're not ready to move forward. It's hard for you to let go. I'm sure you went through that as
Yes,
complicated grief
yes,
stage. Those symptoms are on a continuum and they interfere with your ability to function. But when you achieve integrated grief, you're able to acknowledge that loss and commemorate the loss. Y'all did a balloon release, and I do things to celebrate my mom anniversary,
yes,
dad's anniversary day, but I let my friends know, or my friends recognize it,
yes,
and they call me and check in on me. But healing for me looks like if I need to check in with my
yes,
therapist, checking in with my therapist. If I need to travel to experience an oasis of
yes,
peace, I do that. If I need to journal, which I do almost every day, pray on a continuum, also exercise frequently. You have to figure out what works for you to cope
yes,
with these life challenges. But one thing I know for sure is I am resilient, and having this conversation publicly is indicative of my growth.
yes,
There is no shame in who I was, my life experiences that I've lived, and that's the beauty of having this podcast because I think it's so important for people to connect with authentic Crystal and understand that I've experienced challenges. I'm not perfect. I strive to be great every day, but I'm not perfect, but I'm also healed and I'm also on a ongoing journey of becoming
yes,
of
yes.
becoming. What would you say?
No, and I just want to kind of add to that. The journey that we were on took place because we kept that sibling relationship. I think this is very important because you allowed us to get or have space to heal. You allowed us to have a safe space to heal outside of our home, right? And so as we went on that journey, you opened up your home, you gave us love, but you gave us a space to heal. And I think that's very important. But I also want to add to Crystal is that I think there's a stereotype in our community, in the black community, of when we are hurting, when we're grieving, and I understand that we are trained or culturally we go to this faith-based trying to heal the church, and there's nothing wrong with the church. I've been serving in ministry and executive pastor here at Hope Everlasting Ministry, but we need to understand as well as what we do from a faith-based perspective is need to make sure that we need to make sure our mental is intact, and that's what you do, and that's why we have counselors, that's why we have therapists, right?
Right.
And so those two should be able to coincide with the faith-based therapy as well as just mental health therapy. And so I think that we're getting better with that, but I think that culturally a lot of us, the stigma in the black community is that we don't need therapy.
Today, we are talking about family, grief, resilience, and breaking generational cycles. You can't break a generational cycle if you don't talk about it. Grief does not always pull families apart. I do want to mention this when we lost dad and we had to sell the apartment building in New York. That was a really trying time. Unfinished business have a way of tearing a family apart.
Yes.
I'm glad that Edward and I was able to work through those challenges because it has not always been perfect.
Right.
We have had some really challenging times in our relationship,
Yes.
but we stood the test of that and we were able to talk through that and understand all the things that happened and love each other through that. It is very important for grief to teach us how to love each other more deeply. Let's transition into talking more about mental health and wellness. What would you say to someone that is afraid to ask for help?
I kind of illustrated it as a person taking handcuffs and just kind of locking themselves in like a dark place, right? And so by asking for help, you're freeing yourself, you're getting that help that you need. I have seen the side where people will say there is no other side of it. I'm in a dark space right now, and they're not willing to ask for help. Maybe they're ashamed to ask for help. Maybe it's a stigma of showing that I'm weak. But my advice would be to someone: if you need help, please just go call someone, call a friend, get with a therapist or a counselor or someone, but talk it through. Crystal always said, don't suffer alone. So there's resources out there. There are people out there who have degrees, who have education, who I've been trained to do this. And so again, that's one thing we do in our church when it comes to people when we go through counseling is we make sure that they get that follow-up help outside of the church because it's very important to their understanding.
Don't suffer in silence. If you have a broken arm, you're not going to suffer. You're going to have a doctor check on it. If you're sad, just don't wallow in your sadness. If you are highly anxious, talk through that. Reach out to a mental health professional. And if you're afraid of doing so, call someone. They can walk you through that process. And you can reach out to Strive Counseling. We're happy to support you on your healing journey. When I'm suffering spiritually, I reach out to my brother. I'm not afraid to talk about the challenges I am having. He's my sounding board. And what I really love about when I call you in distress, you always speak positively and you point to the word. You guide me in a direction where I can be a peaceful person, where I can make sound decisions. Healing isn't only about surviving difficult moments, it's also about rediscovering joy. And also, you have to rediscover who you are after you go through challenging times. I must say, I have a lot of inner joy. I love life. I have a lot of laughter in my life. I have good friends, good connections. I love the work that I'm doing. I'm so grateful to be in a community, to give back, to help people overcome their mental challenges. We're going to have a little fun as I'm wrapping this up. Tell me one word that describes our family.
Resilience.
I definitely agree. Resilience is that. What's your favorite childhood memory?
Oh wow. So again, so many, but again, I have to go back to Christmas on the River. It's just so much within that, so many joyful times with our family, just so many great memories.
Okay. So, who was the funniest sibling?
Me.
Were you? Yeah, you
was.
were silly. What meal instantly reminds you of home?
Ooh, and I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna smile when I say it.
What?
Oysters.
And I still love oysters
Yes,
till this
yes.
day.
I think we were the only family that had fried oysters on
Fried
the
oysters
Saturday
for
morning for breakfast.
breakfast. Fried oysters, grits,
Yes,
and what else?
and eggs and biscuits.
Eggs and biscuits.
Yes.
My mom was a fantastic cook. Our grandmother was a great cook. What lesson you'll never forget from mom?
So here it is. Don't quit. Right? I've seen where times, like we just talked about from a mental health perspective, sometimes she was suffering from not just loneliness, but hurt, where she was just those days where she had to cope by, like you said, just listening to some music. She just always had this endurance about herself. She did, yeah. And that's one thing I would say about mom. Again, I just talked about college graduate from Alabama A&M, our mom, beautiful voice. But the lesson that she taught, I think, say to both of us, is don't quit, even to the last day.
That's
You
true.
know, at DCH, she just had that will and don't ever quit.
Wow. That was, yeah, I agree. I agree. So, what lesson you always carry from dad?
Dad would be determination.
Of course.
And just right quick, again, we talked about 654 Park Place in Brooklyn, New York, a young entrepreneur coming from the deep south. But it wasn't until later on in life I realized that some of the things that he did was because there was a reason behind it, why he was
Yeah.
so hard on us, right? It was determining to not just be looked at as another young man from the South, that we were all black men who all can have that same opportunity but can do more. And so we already know Dad was determined to whatever he put his mind to, he did.
He did.
He did it.
And he used to always tell me, your money is your best friend. Probably
Yes.
speaks to why I have a lot of friends. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, he would remind me basically, don't be down about friendship and to be focused,
Yes.
determined.
Yes.
All right. If our family had a motto, what would it be?
Ooh. If our family had a motto, what would it be?
I'm a survivor.
Mullen
No.
family. So here it is. Don't allow the challenges of today be your challenges of tomorrow.
Oh, that's good.
Every family has their different dynamics, but I know we can say that the Mullen family, the legacy, when you hear Mullen family in Demopolis, it means something.
It does.
But there were challenges some days, but we didn't allow those to be challenges the next day. We moved on, we endured, we persevered. And so, yeah, I think that'll be the motto of our
I
family.
like that. I agree.
And you're living up to it,
Well,
by the
thank
way.
you. You too. I'm proud of you. Thank you. So, if mom were listening today, what would you tell her?
This is one of those ones. I hope you got tissue in there.
Oh, more. I actually do have something. Let me get it out. No,
No.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, man. You know, the conversation I would have, and I know she's listening, but if mom was here today watching this, me and you have this conversation, I would want her to just know and hear how great we're doing,
I know.
how a great of a job she did in raising us, the love that she instilled in us, we're putting it back out.
Right.
The legacy that she left for a young girl at 14, 15 is now not only doing what she did, but doing it at a higher level and continues to go. We were talking earlier about some plans, and my mind is blown about your passion. So, mom was listening. I'll just say, Mom, we're good. We're good. Your two kids are doing well, and you'll be proud of what we're doing.
Thank you. I would tell her definitely thank you. I would tell dad, thank you for being so hard on me.
Yes.
Thank you for protecting me because you taught me how to better take care of myself. And thank you for allowing me to grow and develop and make decisions to become independent. Thank you for guiding me and showing me how to have love and compassion for other people. That is so. All right. What does striving for a healthier you mean to you?
Continue to push forward.
Continue to,
Push forward.
despite all that's going on. Absolutely.
Yes, that's a lot.
Yeah, you have to be relentless.
Yes, yes.
So, what's one piece of wisdom you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Here it is. Crystal said it best. Don't suffer in silence. One of the things I would leave on today is if you need help, get help. Right? If it seems like the walls are closing in, if it feels like there's no other side to this, if it seems like the light is growing dim, get help, right? Before it's too late. I've seen firsthand of what it looks like when someone quits. I've seen firsthand when someone just says, I'm scared, I can't do it anymore. And all it takes is a conversation with a health profession.
It does. I agree. Definitely don't quit. Break the generational cycle.
Yes.
Stop sweeping things under the rug, if you will. You cannot free yourself when you are hiding behind a mask. You cannot heal when you are not your authentic, transparent self. So seek therapy if you need therapy. Be okay asserting yourself and putting boundaries in place with people in your life that don't respect you, that mistreat you, that won't honor your values. You got to know what your values are. Spend time focusing on it. Spend time focusing on self care, which could be like therapy can be a part of that journey. Your spiritual well being can be a part of that journey. So invest in yourself and strive to be a healthier you. Edward, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation today. It really means a lot to me.
I enjoyed myself. I really did. Yes. What you're doing is very important. Thank you. And I'm so proud of you. I just can't keep saying it again. There's so many people out here in this world, especially in the environment that we need help. When we're crying out, and you're doing a great job of answering that.
Adverse childhood experiences exist, and environmental factors can definitely impact your personality, your emotions, your relationships as you are evolving or maturing throughout lifespan. So recognize what's happening to you and seek help. And we're not defined by our hardships that we've endured, and you're not either, but by love, resilience, faith, and hope that we will continue to carry forward. We definitely will. Our roots shape us, but they don't have to define our future. Healing begins when we are willing to have honest conversations, extend grace, And thank you for extending grace and forgiving
Yes.
and
Yes.
choosing growth over silence. In today's conversation, I hope that we inspired you, reminding you that healing is possible. Please subscribe to Striving for a Healthier You, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Follow Striving for a Healthier You and Strive Counseling Services for more conversations that educate, inspire, and empower. I'm Crystal Mullen Johnson, your podcast host, and this is my brother, Edward Mullen. Healing Again begins with honest conversations here on Striving for a Healthier
Yes.
You.
Yes.
I make everything crystal clear. Until next time, take care of yourself, extend grace to others, and keep striving for a healthier you. Thank you so much.